other service that would fall under that category.
And the next one, the Urban League, would fall under the same circumstance.
Okay. Let's see, and then St. Louis pandemic preparedness. That sounds really helpful. I didn't even know they existed. Fire Marshal. So it looks like Fire Marshal Association of Missouri, Friends of Metro West Fire District, Junior Lancers Football, and Knights of Columbus. Oh, and the Ryan Howard Family Foundation are all within Wildwood. That all looks good to me. Does anybody object to that grouping?
Nope.
What about the St. Louis Community College Foundation?
Ms. Caldwell, if I may.
Please.
The next bunch came from the Department of Planning. And if I could give an explanation to the task force members, many of these that have been added have provided services in the city, but obviously they're larger organizations. But they also offer classes and volunteer opportunities. And one of the things that the city often gets calls about are individuals looking for volunteer opportunities. And so I took a little different tack, so I hope that's acceptable. But in the case of the Community College Foundation, we have one of the 4 campuses in Wildwood, and they do offer scholarships on a need basis. So I thought it would be appropriate to at least consider it.
Absolutely, I'm good with that. Certainly you have a lot of experience in what the needs are, so I appreciate you adding these and your team adding these to this.
Well,
Any objections? Oh, I'm sorry.
No, my apologies, Madam Chair. Again, we were looking for organizations that maybe provide services, but I also thought of organizations that provide opportunities. So as I say, we could eliminate all those that have been added by the department and we would take no offense. But again, like I say, it was just an approach that I thought might be appropriate.
I think that's wonderful. I know just in my own experience, I've had people having a hard time finding volunteer opportunities, particularly given the pandemic. So I have no problem with that. I'm wondering about others. Any objections?
No, I think they're good.
I'm all for it too. I think that's great. I think I told you guys before, I was looking for ways to volunteer with my family. I really didn't even know where to go to look. So this is a great resource.
I believe that Knights of Columbus is actually at St. Alban Row also. So, and I know they do other things with children with special needs also.
Are you saying that's a repeat, that it's already under St. Albans?
Well, they always have their, whenever there's a Knights of Columbus organization, it's always affiliated with a church, and it is with St. Alban. I believe this is the one, unless it's with Holy Infant, but the name looks like a St. Alban person I know, so.
Okay, great. So it looks like parents as teachers. Is that Chesterfield?
It's actually Crestview Middle School right on Valley Road and Clayton Road. So it's across
Excellent.
the street from Wildwood.
Yeah, they definitely serve Wildwood directly, for sure.
Yeah, they serve the entire Rockwood School District.
Great. Okay. How about Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts?
And that was a question for all of you. We haven't recognized them, and I wasn't sure if we should or shouldn't, how we would do it, individual troops or the overall metropolitan organization. But that's my question.
I think they're associated with schools, both Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts. At least they used to be when my kids were that age. So, and I do know there are Boy Scout troops at Green Pines, and we know that they're associated with. They kind of pulled away from the churches, but Pond School, I think they have that. So there's a lot of them. It's not like there'd be one. We'd have to figure out, and I'm sure you could get that from the St. Louis, a Girl Scout organization and Boy Scouts, what troops are affiliated within the city limits of Wildwood or service that way. But they do have a lot of involvement in the city.
So are we looking at them as someone that provides a service, or are we looking at them as a volunteer opportunity? What's the reasoning for having them on the list, just out of curiosity?
Well, Mr. Chair, I would probably say both, in that they do offer an opportunity for young women and young men to participate in an outside activity. And also they do all offer their services in a volunteer basis. We've had several of the Boy Scout troops help people rake leaves and clean up their property because of not necessarily any other reason than just age restriction, meaning they were elderly like me. But as I say, they seem to offer both, in my opinion.
Are they considered non-for-profit? I don't know the answer to that question.
Yes, sir.
One of the things that may be going forward, if we can somehow use all our resources to get a database of ABC of all the Boy Scouts, all the Girl Scouts, etc., and then that would be the things that I think would be beneficial on the database, so that we can hand out, and it may be a contact for a new resident, etc., to pull in.
Sorry.
So I think the question is, do we keep them on this list? Do we need to find the specific troops or the overall organization? Seems to be some confusion as to how to organize that.
Maybe as a suggestion, we could contact the Boy Scouts and ask them. They would have what they call a manager that would be over probably all of West St. Louis County, but have that person come to our meeting and talk about what the Boy Scouts involvements are, how many dens, troops, packs they have in the Wildwood area, and then do the same thing with Girl Scouts. They would have kind of a district manager who would be over the Rockwood school. And I only say that because they primarily do focus on the school districts to try to get the kids at the right age brackets. But I'm sure they could give us one person that could speak for each individual group if we just ask.
That sounds great.
Yeah, I think that's the way to go.
All right, looks like the next one is St. Louis Open Space Council.
In this particular instance, Madam Chair, they offer classes on how to remove bush honeysuckle, which seems to be everywhere in Wildwood. And they also offer volunteer opportunities like Operation Clean Stream, which the portion of the Merrimack River through Wildwood has benefited greatly from. So I thought it might be appropriate. They are not a local organization, however.
Sounds like they do serve our community, so I'm good with keeping them on. Everyone else is. And then Great Rivers Greenway.
Yes, this is a tax-supported entity created by the voters, but the nice thing about that is they offer volunteer opportunities on all the trail systems throughout the metropolitan area, including here in Wildwood. So again, more of a volunteer entity, but they are a very wealthy entity because they receive taxes from St. Charles County, St. Louis County, and the city of St. Louis.
They do great work.
Great. Any objections to keeping them on? All right, and then Friends of, is it Bellevue?
I'm sorry I'm taking time here, but in this particular instance, it's a group of residents that are in the vicinity of Bellevue Farms Park on St. Paul Road near the Sherman Beach area. And they offer volunteer opportunities as the city and that organization try to restore a 99-acre tract of land.
Excellent. All right, and Missouri Botanical Garden?
In here, just classes and opportunities to become a master gardener, which benefits Wildwood.
Great. Any objections to those two from anyone?
No.
Wonderful. All right, St. Louis County Police Department Explorer Program?
This is a program for young men and women who would like to learn about law enforcement, and it's offered through the St. Louis County Police Department.
Excellent. Any objections to that?
No.
Okay. This says, other places of, should others in Wildwood be added?
And our list is not comprehensive at this time. There are a number of other places of worship in Wildwood. And I just wanted to ask the task force members, do you want all of those added to, let's say, that second spreadsheet, so at least you could see who they are and how they might offer services in Wildwood?
I would say yes, because some of them have some very unique mission opportunities there.
I'm open to that as well.
With your permission, Madam Chair, I'll fill out the list, and then between now and our next meeting, you can all take a look at the different places of worship.
Thank you, I appreciate that. All right, and then Gateway Off-Road Cyclists.
This is a not-for-profit organization that builds bicycle trails. So they all offer volunteer opportunities if you like to get out and get dirty. But they also are going to start offering classes for young children here at Bluffview Park off of Old State Road. So skills classes so young children can learn about the sport of mountain biking.
Excellent. And they are located in Wildwood as well?
Yes, the two major leadership positions, they both live here in Wildwood, and they moved to Wildwood primarily because of the trail system.
Great. All right.
They also have services for, of our, basically of the trails within Wildwood and information about them. And they do work on our trails there and even the new one that's being built, right? So they do quite a bit of work in Wildwood.
Thank you, Mr. Larson. Good point.
Excellent. And I believe somebody spoke about Rotary Club of West St. Louis County. I'm glad to see that's on there. Wildwood Business Association, Wildwood Historical Society, this is self-explanatory. I see that Feed My People is highlighted.
And again, Madam Chair, these were two that were discussed about being removed from the list. Based upon previous instruction, I'll add them to our second spreadsheet.
So can I just give a little information on Feed My People? I called the director at Feed My People, and they said they absolutely did not serve Wildwood because all of Wildwood is part of the Rockwood school system, and they defer everything to Circle of Concern. And that's just for, information. It's no problem with leaving it on, but they're primarily picking up parts of Jefferson County.
Thank you. I think that's helpful information for us to know as well.
If they outright don't do it, I'd make a motion that we just take them off the list, because
Yeah.
even carrying them along is not going to help us any. We'll come back next meeting and try to figure out what.
No.
True.
Yeah. And I did speak directly to the director, and I told her what we were doing as the City of Wildwood Task Force and all of that. And she said their name shouldn't be on. Really.
I would second that. If you're
I
following.
agree. We'll go ahead and remove that one. How about, and Pedal the Cause, we'll add to the other list unless anybody has other information on that one.
That's one I put on. They do the big ride through Wildwood in September, I think it's about the 24th or 25th this year. And they will be doing it. Last year, we actually did it virtually, but it's just a fundraiser for cancer research for actually the money stays here in St. Louis. It goes to Siteman Cancer Center, St. Louis Children's Hospital, and Missouri Baptist. So, but I don't mind it going to the other list. Very big volunteer, and it just big bike ride, a lot of fun, raise a lot of money, saved my husband's life. So
That's awesome.
The one that maybe is a little closer would be like the Missouri Bike and Pedestrian Federation, the MoBike Fed, because they run Tour Wildwood.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know, it's a fine line between them.
Mr. Larson, did you say they are based in Wildwood?
No, they're not. They're not based. I don't think so. In Wildwood, but they run Tour Wildwood, which we have normally every fall in Wildwood, right? It's one of our city-sponsored events, or I should say, official events.
Okay. So in terms, oh yes, Mr. Marshall.
Just a question, Mara, and maybe Joe could help with this. At one point, Hidden Valley had a separate not-for-profit set up for blind skiers, where people who could ski could assist people that did not have sight to be able to ski. I don't know if they still have it, and I know at one point they had a lot of equipment stolen, a trailer or something pulled away, but they are a big facility there, and that was a pretty popular program at one point. I just don't know if they do it any longer, and I don't know if Mr. Vunich would know or not.
With the change in ownership, Mr. Marshall, I'm not sure any longer, but if there's no objection amongst the task force members, we'll do a little more research and find out.
I think that sounds wonderful. All right, so it looks like we made it through our list. Yay! Is there anything that anyone on there that they wanted to make sure was added or at least discussed?
Yeah, Maura, I do. Sorry to bring it up at the end, and I don't know why I didn't think about this till just now, but Rockwood has an amazing program, Rockwood Gives Back. It's a donation opportunity, and it's also a receiving opportunity. So they have two components, the giving place, which includes like you can donate or receive household items such as furniture, clothes, cleaning supplies, things you need. And then they also have the Got Your Backpack program, which offers food to take home for students every weekend. And you can also donate to the food pantry as well. So it's both sides of what we're looking for. You could volunteer or receive. I can send you the contact information in the chat if you'd like.
That would be great. You said that's Rockwood Gives Back?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yes.
Is that the same organization that does the holiday donations to families in need, or is that separate? I'm thinking it through the school district. Maybe that's through the school district, isn't it? Okay.
I think every school does those individually, the adoptive families.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is different. This is year round.
Got it.
Would support it because they have a strong following in Wildwood.
Laura,
Excellent.
I sent you some information regarding the Boy Scouts via chat, the contact information.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I thought did we not discuss any kind of animal rescue? Is there none in Wildwood? Did we not talk about that before? I just don't know if there's any in Wildwood.
Miss Jelling, I know of,
Difficulties.
Okay,
I do not know of any,
okay,
but we can certainly since we have a little time, we can certainly do some research just to verify that. I signed most of the business licenses and home occupations, and I don't recall any, but don't do it on my memory. I'd
computer
embarrass
froze.
myself.
of course. There it is. Wait, you're back. Okay. Oh. Okay, well, I can't help it's unstable.
I apologize. I'm having some technical problems here. Give me just a second. Okay. So with the information we have right now, it looks like with the addition of Rockwood Gives Back, we added the Rotary Club, contacting the Boy Scout and Girl Scout managers. Does everybody feel like they're comfortable with this list to move forward with the next step? Okay. Wonderful. So then I believe everybody was emailed a copy or a draft of the letter that we're considering sending out to the organizations on this list. Did anybody have any objections or anything they wanted to add? Maybe this is the time to kind of edit. Would it be helpful, and I don't know if it's a possibility, to put that up on the shared screen?
Mr. Newberry is acknowledging yes, so if you give us a second, we'll see what we can do.
Thank you.
My first read was good.
All right. Did somebody just say something when we were putting this up? I might have missed it.
Madam Chair, I think it was Mr. Lemay, and he said his first read was good.
Excellent. I agree. Does
I
anybody,
third that.
does anybody have anything they want to add to this?
Should we narrow down the time frame as far as they're going to have 5 minutes? I mean, if you're doing a Zoom meeting, you don't want somebody coming in wanting to present for 45 minutes if you've got 5 minutes for them, or some way to get however they'd like to position their organization the most effective way for us to hear about it. Because as you all know, there's a lot of groups there. We could spend a lot of time and not know the uniquenesses about it. So the only suggestion I would make about that.
I really like that idea of keeping it to a certain amount of time. I also think, and Maura and I and Joe and Travis talked about this also, we won't really know how we need to split up the groups until we get a response back from how many groups really want to be a part of this. So if it ends up being everybody that's on our list wants to be a part of this, then we might have to split ourselves up into different groups too, so that we're not on a 5-hour meeting.
Yes, I agree with that. I think everybody can agree nobody wants to be a part of a 5-hour Zoom. I'm wondering, perhaps in the letter we give a please respond, an RSVP date so that we can gather that information.
That's a great idea.
I guess I would wonder, so what if people don't what if they don't want to participate? So then we take them off?
I think that's exactly what we do. I think we take them off if they don't want to be a part of it, or if they want to be a part of it and don't want to come to the meeting, then we kind of go based off of the information that they give us when they fill out some sort of worksheet or something like that when we send it to them.
Yeah,
But if they want to give us more details, and they need to be part of that meeting.
Okay. I was also wondering, maybe some people might want to send their own 5-minute video in from the organization and say, you know, this is what we do and this is why we do it. And, you know, I don't know if that's something we want. I was just trying to think of a way that's, you know, they could be proactive on that end. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's fair too.
That may be a great option for some organizations as well if that August 10th date doesn't work. And I think on the next agenda line, we're developing this questionnaire. And so perhaps answer your question of if somebody doesn't want to participate in the Zoom meeting, but does want to send back that questionnaire, we can at least include them in what our final product is with that information.
Okay, that sounds good.
Madam Chair, with your permission, maybe on the questionnaire is just a statement that if they do not want to participate in the Zoom call, if they have a video, as Ms. Jelling mentioned, we'd love to have the link or the CD, whatever format it is in.
That's great. I love that. So with the addition of the RSVP date, which is, I guess, will be determined by when we're setting this out, perhaps we move to talking about this questionnaire and circle back to that date at the end of the meeting. So I think this is kind of our big task for this meeting, in addition to making it through our list. Don't want to take away from that, but the idea is that we're developing a one-page questionnaire for these organizations. That's something that's easy for them to fill out and send back to us, easy for residents to be able to look at and understand what the services are. So the question and our task tonight, perhaps kind of moving forward as well, is what are these questions we want on this form?
I mean, to be simple, what services do you provide? And is there a cost associated with your service? Those are the two that come to mind for me.
I think resource information also, you know, just phone numbers, websites, you know, Twitter, Facebook, all that kind of, you know, all the contact information, right?
Also, you can add volunteer opportunities.
Mm-hmm.
Would suggest too including any criteria that they have for eligibility to participate.
If you're keeping score, that's 5.
Were you all thinking about doing this in the context of like a Google form, or is it going to be more of something that's going to be mailed out and hard copy returned and then entered later? Had you thought about maybe doing something online?
I don't know the limits with the legality and everything with the city with the Google Doc, but my experience is I get better feedback when I don't do paper and hard copy.
I agree. I think that's a great call if someone's smart enough to set up the Google Doc.
May also want to include how to contact them. They have a website or phone number. And then a lot of these organizations will have marketing materials, a trifold brochure that they give out at fairs or whatever. Give them the opportunity to send in whatever glossy materials they have, it would be helpful. Not sure if that would make it into the final product, but that typically has a lot of the information that we'd be looking for.
Yeah, that's helpful.
Mr. Chair and Madam Chair, I think Mr. Bowman's suggestion is an excellent one. We can do a number of contacts or surveys off our website, but we can also do it through Google. So I guess the question that I would pose to all of you as task force members, is that the preference? And we can start working on that if you'd like.
I would just add one other thing to that, is that if someone types in like a Google form or some other way of being able to type it in, someone on the other end isn't trying to read an email address or a phone number, it's off of someone's pen. I mean, if you've ever been in that situation where you're trying to figure out, is that an 8 or is that a 6? I mean, just trying to figure out all those details. So sometimes just having them type it all in makes it a little easier. But it could be that there could be some that might have challenges with that. So maybe if someone's not able to do it by if you've done a Google form, it's mainly you just click a link and it just pops up, and you just fill in the forms and hit submit. So I mean, and then on the back end, whoever's managing the Google form, then that information is all collected and put in. It can be like a spreadsheet format, and a lot of it could really be accessible quickly. Anyway, and maybe there's like with our church, we'll have people that if they don't have that access, they can just call the phone number, and someone will just pull the screen up and just type it into that same Google form, maybe in the office, and that way the same information's coming in the information's coming into the same place, even if it's via a phone call or something. So anyway, that's just what I was thinking, and if that would be doable, I think it would be helpful.
I have
The
another
handwriting
question.
is an excellent point. Hadn't considered that, but another helpful part. I'm
As
sorry,
we go
Mr.
forward,
Corvington.
More, another potential question for consideration is whether or not we should ask if they would be willing to provide proof of their 501 status if necessary.
Yeah.
Again, I'm asking that question in the context of if we're advocating, so to speak, for certain groups in the context of the citizens of Wildwood, are we in a better position to advocate for legitimate charitable organizations?
Yeah, it is a little tricky with the 50, and Dan, you probably know this better than most. The 501c3, not all charities to be qualified have to file that, right? So I think you'd have to try to figure out the right criteria there.
I appreciate that. But again, I'm just asking that question.
Yeah, no, it's I think it's a good point. What is if it's available, certainly. I mean, like, for example, use something like Charity Navigator, that kind of thing to research.
Some of the newer charities may not have their 501c3 yet. And one of the things that I also would recommend is we begin to get all of these in, probably categorize. I mean, we could have all of the religious organizations together. We have food, quote, is a category that comes up 3 or 4 times. Health, mental health, and we can keep going on some of those, so that when we get them, we're not just jumping from one to the other. I think the mind reads better when you have all of those for, in some type of pattern.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And perhaps that's how we're going to want to divide up the meeting too, if we have
Right.
a lot of responses.
I know we're getting toward the end. I have been called by my wife that I have to leave because we're going out. Sorry. Thanks.
Thank you for your input. So I certainly think we have a pretty good start to this form. I guess the question is, and I know Dan and Joe and Travis and I had talked about this, is do we think we need to have another meeting to finalize this information, to gather this information, maybe perhaps after we get the responses from these organizations before we have the Zoom meeting with everyone?
Could we schedule a tentative meeting date based off of the response that we get? So if we have a large response and we might have to structure it a different way, then we would have this meeting. But if we have a low response, then we stick with the August meeting that we already have scheduled.
I'm okay with that. Wondering about others.
I'm okay with that.
Sounds good.
Madam Chair and Mr. Chair, would it be acceptable if we sent out, we being the department, pardon me, sent out some date options in the latter part of June, early July?
That sounds good.
That sounds good to me.
Maybe another suggestion would be is if you have the questions right that you think you want to take a stab at, maybe we could send that out to the task force and we could try to fill them out or try to see if it's going to give us enough information before we send those out to everybody, because we might come back with something, say we should have asked that.
Yeah.
And maybe if we all look at it from a different angle to say, is it, when it's all filled out, is it going to give us what we want in order to try to get more information? So
Excellent idea.
Yes,
I
please.
agree, that's great.
Well, Mr. Chair and Madam Chair, is there an objection if the department tries to formulate some of the questions and then gets them out to you in draft form?
I would suggest that's the preferred method.
I would greatly appreciate that as well.
Joe, you had planned to use the Google Forms or Google Survey?
Actually, I'm kind of leaning toward forms if there's no objection amongst the task force members.
Got me.
Sounds good to me.
Okay. Me too.
All right, so it sounds like moving forward, we will send out a tentative questionnaire that we can all answer and see what is needed. Send out tentative dates for a future meeting, end of June, beginning of July. Is there anything else that we're missing on that end?
Again, my apologies, Mr. Chair and Madam Chair. We're going to try to get the questionnaire out as soon as we can, because if we're still shooting for August 10th, and surprisingly, that'll get here pretty quickly. At least it has in the past when we do these kinds of things. So I hope to get you the draft here in the next couple of weeks so we can start looking at that. Take a break over Memorial Day and then kind of come back and start looking at getting everything pulled together to get out to the organizations.
That sounds great to me.
Yeah, sounds great to me too.
We tend to have a lot of momentum right after the meeting, and then we kind of have that lag and then that panic right before the August meeting. So if we can avoid that, that would be great. All right. Are there any other, is there public participation this evening?
Madam Chair, we do not have any others in attendance via Zoom.
Any other matters for consideration?
Will we ever get to see people in person again?
I really hope so.
Ms. Jelling, I'm hopeful that if the meeting's late enough in June or early enough in July, we could do it in person and actually
I'd like that. It's, it's hard sometimes to do a format like this and bring ideas. I don't know.
We'll do everything possible to see if we can make that happen.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I love that idea. All right, so it sounds like everyone is clear on the next steps in terms of what's being sent out. Our next official meeting date is August 10th, but like we stated earlier, we will go ahead and put some possible dates for end of June, beginning of July for an interim meeting. Anything else before we adjourn? All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn.
Thank you, Ms. Schelling. A second?
Second that. Second
Thank
that.
you, Mr. Larson. Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Like,
Night all.
Good night.
Good night.